Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the War Room, which is, of course, our interview series as part of the Clone Star Pod. I am your host, Seán Ferrick, and joining me is the animation wizard, he who is wearing the best t-shirt in the world. He has worked on Star Trek Prodigy. He has worked amazingly on Freddy v. Jason, and yes, we will get back to that because I love that film. Jason Meier, how are you getting on? Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me. I am so stoked to be here with you guys, and I'm so stoked to talk about Freddy versus Jason.
Yes,
and I'm so glad because that is the high point of my career. Sorry, Prodigy, but yeah, I'm happy to be here.
I'm delighted. We were both joking just before recording there that you very kindly agreed. Like the second we asked, you agreed to come on. It was wonderful. And then, like, if I had that SpongeBob insert, like 6 months later, life just got in the way.
Yes, yeah, I always wanted to do it, and then it's like I have this disease where I like want to keep working on Prodigy, and everything else goes away. It's like sometimes I'll be sitting here and just like one more keyframe, one more, and then I'm like, okay, now I can go. And then I'm like, well, that thing's a little off. All right, let me just do it. Yeah. So I'm happy to be here, and thank you for accommodating. It's morning my time. It is 5 o'clock somewhere your time.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is great because we're both sitting here with our coffees.
Yes. Yes, you have a very specific coffee glass.
I do. Yes. Yeah. Although yours is cooler. Now, I like mine. Don't get me wrong, but I do like yours.
I do love this mug. Sometimes they give you gifts and you're like, but this Corksicle plug Prodigy mug that I've kind of started to ruin. I accidentally put it in the dishwasher. Don't do that at home when it's got the special wrap, the special like Prodigy wrap.
Oh,
so anyway, that's just a little free lesson in dishwasher safety.
Now, actually, Joe, picking up on that because of cool shit like that, we need more Star Trek Prodigy. It's as simple as that.
Hey, you and me both, man. I was like, we're gonna go 5 seasons, no problem, and so here we are. strong 2 seasons, strong 2.
And that's it. We'll touch on what we can of season 2, which is possibly next to nothing, but we'll touch on that as we go along. But the first thing that obviously I and everyone involved in Clone Star and everywhere, like the internet at large, is first of all, fair play for everything that's gone so far. And are you okay with it? Seems to be the absolute rug has just been pulled out.
Well, if they shut us down, like stop working, that would be like the really big rug that none of us wanted, clearly. And so no, it was a shock, but also not too shocking given like the climate of streaming and what all big studios are going through right now. Warner Brothers did it months ago, and and a lot of people were upset that their shows were gone and stuff, and which is like totally understandable. But it was a shock in terms of like, why would you split out that particular Star Trek property and just put it out on an island on its own and be like, for sale, but I'm not in charge of those decisions. I don't know why those decisions get made. I found out just pretty much as soon as the public did, like maybe a day before. So it wasn't like I had to like linger with it for a long time and then everybody found out. And so, but once everybody found out and like seeing the love and support like we were talking about before, that made us, you kind of get set back a little bit and you're like, oh, you're like the canceled orphan child. But then you're like, well, the best revenge is living well. And we're going to make a fucking kick-ass season 2. And I can safely say it's we're over halfway done, and we're We're making it strong. Every episode, we're making stronger and stronger and stronger.
Like, I think that as well. I suppose to touch on the bigger picture, like, you're right, it's streaming at the moment. It's kind of hard to keep up with what the rules are and what you have to hit to get certain things. But if we just look at Star Trek as a franchise, Prodigy is the outlier in that it had such a strong season one.
Yeah.
We look back at some of those and we say this with love. I mean, see, it's Next Generation has to have been signed for a 2-season deal before the first episode aired. And again, I say this with love because we have the hindsight to go, look how good it got, and look, once it hit its stride. And that happens a lot. Prodigy, on the other hand, was just like, you be this good from the beginning.
I attribute that to Kevin and Dan and the writers, and that was their pitch, and that was like the love that they wanted to feel for these characters, and that they're teenagers, and that, like, you're discovering it with them and all that stuff. So I think it has that kind of unique point of view. And then the visuals, I think, the animation backed it up, and then the visuals backed it up. And then, working with Ben Hibbins, shout out to Ben. I love Ben. Like, really, the kind of like Kevin and Dan, Ben, me, and Patrick Krebs are kind of like, and Aaron Walkie, and, a lot of, like, everybody, but like it kind of solidified down to us that we're kind of like, we want to keep making it. We didn't want anything to feel like it was like, oh, this is the kid version of Star Trek. I wanted it to be, if you could plug certain shots or sequences into a live action series or movie, that's what I wanted to do.
And you know what? At the risk of sounding like I'm going to blow smoke up your arse here for a second.
I love smoke.
Excellent, because I've got pages. But it is visually, this show is, I mean, it's almost unparalleled in Star Trek. And again, that's not a word against anything that's come before, because a lot of the time you're working with what you have at the time, and then, visual effects get so much better as time goes on. Discovery, I have to say, looks incredible. The Kelvin universe. Then you have this comes out, and from the opening credits right way through, you're just like, oh, these people know what they're doing.
Yeah. That's I'm gonna blow smoke up Ben's butt from here while he's in Paris right now. But like, once I got on the show, I didn't really know what. I mean, if we want to talk about, I don't know. Once I got on the show, we can talk in depth more about that. But like, I was like, oh, this is like something big, and this is something like next level animation, like TV, like what's done for TV animation, but twist. Oh, we're adding little lens flares and blooms, and we're like lighting it nice, and we have nice composition and breath and storytelling and this, all that stuff. So that was it's been awesome to be a part of. But thank you for the compliment. I mean, that's you're
so welcome. Like, because when the first lineup, when we saw what the characters were going to look at, we went, right, okay, cool. So at least we know we're working in this kind of animation. Whereas the two previous animated versions of Star Trek are the 1970s Filmation, which I think is criminally underrated, and of course then Lower Decks. So they're more those traditional 2D type animation, and then you have this, and then I remember there was chats in the office going like, is it going to be really hard to do crossover episodes, and how are we going to do that? But then of course you see Janeway, and you're like, oh, the kids are more alien. That's it. That's. That
was the cool thing about it, is seeing these puppets running around this kind of realistic kind of environment, which is kind of, it's like more or less kind of the style of almost everything. Like, the backgrounds are real, the puppets are the puppets, right? But Yeah, sorry. I was just like thinking about like, and also their personalities too. Like you're seeing, like it's like, you know, when I got on the show, I immediately just started watching Star Trek. I started watching the original series. I was watching Next Generation. I was watching Voyager. I rewatched the JJ movies. I rewatched Wrath of Khan. I rewatched like, I just was like, I was trying to grab, you know, visual cues and you know, any little nugget that I could. I mean, I've watched this series I watched Voyager and stuff back in the day, but I had to have this. I wanted to have a refresher, you know, so I could make our show feel like there's certain things when you see them, they cue you into this is Star Trek, not like this has the name of Star Trek, but it's like, you know, like not cinematic or not, you know, not playing as if it's Star Trek, which has a very distinct style.
It does, like, even I suppose for all of the differences in the different series, there is still a kind of a house style of Trek.
Yeah.
For you though, right? So I want to know about your journey from, you know, you're working you're working on the greatest filmatic masterpiece of all time, Freddy v. Jason. So
That's
from
right.
there to the animation department of Star Trek Prodigy, what's that process? And then how do you come into contact with Kevin and Dan?
Well, the my sort of trajectory actually starts at Star Trek. If you don't know this, so I worked my first job. I would say I don't want to use the word out of college incorrectly because I was technically at college, but I left college and did not finish the college because I wanted to start working in animation. My good friend Tom McDougall, who works at DreamWorks now, his dad Brandon was building spaceships for Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and so I'm from Ojai, California, up north, about an hour and a half north of Burbank. And so I would go over their house all the time and be like, "Oh my God, he's building spaceships! This is so cool!" And I could watch, you know, an episode of Voyager and see his work, you know, on screen. And I was like, well, this is what I want to do. So my buddy and I moved out. He started working at Foundation Imaging that was doing effects on Voyager. And they did, you know, they pioneered Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine and like all that stuff. So I was like foot in the door. I got hired as a tape operator, which meant that I was, you know, I would get the footage from Paramount on a digibeta. I'd put the digibeta in and I would load up After Effects and I would pull the footage onto, you know, I would make it nice and pretty for the animators and visual effects artists to do whatever they needed to do on it. So I would get this footage of Janeway, like, you know, just stabbing a knife into a green screen, you know, whatever. And then John Teska or some of the artists, you know, would put the creature into it and track it in there and, you know, in Lightwave. So that was my first job, was on Voyager. And Deep Space Nine a little bit, but mostly Voyager. So that was that. And then I became an animator on a Starship Troopers animated series.
Oh, yeah.
It was called Roughnecks, the Starship Troopers Chronicles. So that was my first animation job. I was there for a few years. And then I left. 2001 happened, and you know, like it was hard to find work. But I got in at Nickelodeon early 2002. Worked on a bunch of cartoons, a bunch of stuff there. Got the call from one of my first supervisors, Kevin Kipper, and was like, "Hey, do you want to come work on Freddy versus Jason?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" I just was like, "Yes, yes." I want to work on that because
I love that. Yeah.
I grew up with posters of Freddy and Jason on my walls, and I was a huge Fangoria reader, and like I watched horror movies, so I was like, absolutely. So I did a stint at a place called Pixel Magic, and worked on like 4 or 5 films, that one included, and then, you know, I've worked my way through worked on a digital domain, and then I came back to Nickelodeon in 2005. So I've been at Nickelodeon since 2005. So about 18 years, I think I've, close to 19 years that I've been there. But and I've worked on various projects through Nickelodeon, and I happened to be on a Nick Jr. show called Butterbean's Cafe as an animation director. And then Star Trek came up, and I was like, oh yeah, I definitely want to, head up the animation on that. So I jumped over like summer of 2020. So we were in pandemic. We got sent home, and I was on the other show, but then like in the summer I started doing character poses for the characters, like started playing with Dal's rig and Gwen's rig and all the mains, started like just doing poses. I would get poses from Ben and Alessandro, and I would just start like rig testing, but also character testing. And then we were into it. Then we shipped the animation and we just started rolling. So I was, sorry, I'm rambling, but I was animation supervisor by myself up to episode 3, 4. And then we got CJ Sarah Sheen came on, and her and I split the odds and evens for a while. And then Ryan Donahue came. He worked on some episodes with us, mostly the back half of up to like, no, almost all the way through the back half of season 1. And then now Jean-Denis Haas is in that place after Ryan went to DreamWorks. So now the three of us are kind of all like heading up the animation right now. So not many people. And then the studio in India, of course, Nikros Technicolor, they're doing the bulk of the animation, and then we're supervising it and we're doing everything. Yeah. So that's the long arcing history of how to get me 23 years from Voyager back to Voyager.
Yeah. And that's it. It feels now like such a full circle moment, because this is effectively the sequel series to Voyager. While it's very much its own thing, it's still, we're checking in with Janeway and Chakotay. And I just think it's bloody cool. So sorry, just to be sure, like you were supervising the pilot on your own.
Oh yeah, I did the pilot on my own. Yeah. I did. Yeah. That was really, it was a great process. But that really kicked my butt, because I didn't I almost consider myself retired from animating, not from animation, but from animating. And so, but I had to get my feet wet. I had to jump in there, and I animated. I probably laid out, I touched like well over 300 shots myself on the pilot. I did a lot of layout. I worked with Ben on like I laid out the whole front of the pilot, like all the stuff, like all the camera work all through that up until you meet Dal. And then I animated the rock crusher sequence. I animated most of the ships. I animated, like, I had to jump in there. It was just one of those things where, like, because I was watching so much Star Trek, I was like, well, I know what this needs to feel like, and I know what this needs to look like. And I know the kind of, like, the speed and the danger and the excitement and all that stuff. I really wanted that stuff to read, and I wanted it to be exciting. So yeah, I had to jump in there quite a bit, and supervise at the same time. So I was like, I was going a little nuts, but it was pandemic. I had nowhere to go. So if I had to like get up and throw my, shorts on, or throw my, my jammies on and start animating and start working, and, like, well, that's cool. Like, I don't know. Turns out I love it. So like it.
Like thank God, because it's funny as well. Like Star Trek, so famously light on its workload, and short work days, and loads and loads of turnaround time and everything. But when it comes to, and this is a story that's come up, I think, quite often about people who are working on Trek during the pandemic, is that kind of gave them something to do as much as everything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was actually really happy to do it, to do it, because when I was younger and I was working at Foundation, I was like, God, I just want to do a shot. I want to, even if it's just even just a ship going, twisting and pinning in space. I didn't do any of that stuff, but now I'm doing a fuck ton. So, my reel is all Star Trek Prodigy now. But it's cool. It's good exercise. It's good. I mean, sometimes I would be in meetings, 45 minutes. I'm in the back. I'm like, not leading the meeting. I'm in the back, like animating just an establishing shot of the protostar going by. And I'm like, well, if I can get this done in like 30, 45 minutes of just like, just a quick little pan, like I'll be like, okay, cool. I'm going to bust this out because I gotta move on.
That's and I can just imagine as well. Kevin and Dan, famously mean people, like real
Yeah.
cutthroat,
Oh,
horrible.
fuck.
Kind of call you out in the middle of the meeting. Is there something you'd like to share with everyone, Jason?
They were very cool. I mean, I know we were joking, but like I love working with Kevin and Dan, and like to be creators and to be the executive producers, but also trust you so much and trust your input, and not look down their nose at you of like, well, you're not us, so you can't speak, or like only ideas come out of these two brains. Not like that at all. No, they're awesome partners, and they always looked out for me and all of our well-being, and would check in on us, especially that first year, that getting those first 5-10, the first like 10 done was such a milestone. And then we just like sped up. We just like we got the lay of the land. We kind of knew what to do. We sped up considerably, after that first year. But we had to get the style down, and we had to we had to make it the best thing it could.
Of course, because then you've got the challenge of you have, as we discussed, there is this sort of style that goes along with Star Trek, so there is that. But then to make it unique, to make it stand out, you have all of those challenges of that, which you have to do all of that before 1 second goes to a trailer, because then we're all going to be looking at the trailer going like, okay, what do we think of this?
Right.
And and so for you, who had started in Star Trek and had then come back to Star Trek, I mean, this might be a very base question, but what kind of pressure does that put on you?
Tons. If you don't feel the pressure, then you don't know what you're dealing with. Like I consider everything I work on, I don't care what it is, whether it's something shitty like Freddy versus Jason, or no, no, it doesn't matter. Like anything I work on, I am going to give it my full attention and my full respect and full weight, because it's a honor to work in animation and get paid to work in animation, first of all. Second of all, it's Star Trek. And the last thing you want to do is upset a Star Trek fan. or even more importantly, CBS, Secret Hideout. Like I really wanted, when they watched it, I really wanted them to feel like, oh shit, these guys are they're making a Star Trek show. They're not just like, oh, it's a bunch of Happy Time Nickelodeon characters that are like, and it just says Star Trek on it, So yeah, I did feel the pressure for sure, especially, I did that initial pose of Janeway holding the coffee cup that was like the big promo image, and I was like, I was watching Kate Mulgrew reference. I was watching, there's like all these like super cuts on YouTube because I wanted to like get her, like how her chin is and how her mouth, how she holds herself, and those Janeway things. I really wanted to make sure, like, I don't know. I mean, the legacy, these characters, it was a little easier to like, okay, Rock's kind of lumbering, and Gwen is like, we had a lot of conversations about who these other characters are, but they're not anybody that we've seen on screen. But Janeway in particular, I was like, I really wanted to make sure that she came across. And then in episode 6, the Kobayashi one, dealing with, I mean, you got Spock on your screen, and you got Odo on your screen, and you've got, Scotty. What I was like, oh my, these like celebrity puppets are on your screen, and but you kind of have to be like, all right, well, I'm here too, and I'm a part of this too. So what can I do to to honor it, and make it shine? That's the goal.
Like I remember there's two moments I think specifically from part 1 of season 1. First was Janeway drinking from her coffee cup. I mean, it's just iconic, and it's just perfect, because we're just like, yeah, there we go. There's Janeway.
Her hollow coffee.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, we were laughing because remember we were joking, being like, she's a hologram. There's no need for her whatsoever to drink coffee, and yet
there might
that's
be like
so
little
Janeway.
bits. There might be like little like digital bits or something in there. I don't know.
I like to think so. It's a bit like Odo and the coffee in DS9. It's just like. But then speaking of Odo, the second one, it was seeing that bridge lineup, because, we'd say, for example, we'd seen Scotty Uhura and Spock in animation before, because there is the Filmation one, whereas we hadn't seen Odo or Dr. Crusher in animation. And yet, none of them were like, I want to choose my words carefully here. None of them were like a lesser version of the real version. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was like, oh no, I get it. Like, I see Spock's mannerisms there. I see, I see particularly Odo's mannerisms.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know which one was hardest to animate. I have a feeling as a fan watching it, I'd say getting Odo right must have been such a challenge.
I animated one shot of Odo. I animated the shot of Odo that he stood up and, was challenging Dal. And I looked up old Odo I looked at footage, but I was like, the thing that was the most interesting about, like, dealing with Odo or any of these characters is I was thinking of them as makeup puppets, or like, not makeup puppets. I was thinking of them about having like makeup on their face and what they would be able to do on set versus in animation. So like something like Odo, like we almost over-rigged it. Like you can move all this stuff, but like that wouldn't be Odo if things were moving around. Odo is his stoic face, that like appliance on his face, and like the way that he would intensely look. It's not, it's nothing more than that. It's the same thing with like Spock and the eyebrows. I had to, like you couldn't be like, oh, here's Spock worried, or here's Spock, overly concerned. No, it's those things just go up and down. Like you don't want them. It looks off model if things are moving around too much, or like. So that was the big kind of awakening for me, where it's like, oh no, actually, the hard part is getting the camera like underneath, looking up slightly. They do that on Star Trek a lot. It's like, and to actually just kind of give it enough motion to keep it alive, but the beats of like, excuse me, coffee burps, the intensity and like where you put the accents of the character is where it's at, not necessarily like over animating their faces or overdoing it. So that was kind of like the Star Trek stuff that I wanted to bring in, even on our main characters too. Sometimes I'm like, I'd rather them just hold an intense pose and talk from that rather than be like, well, like, Captain, we have a prop, because it's all about the connection, So, yeah, Odo.
But it is.
But
It's
animating Spock was fun too. I animated a couple Spock shots, but like, yeah,
it was,
and that was cool. I mean, yeah,
it was great. It was great because of what you're saying, because of how well I suppose their essence was captured in that. It really did feel like the next natural scene for each of those characters. Well, never mind chronology or anything like that, but it did feel like it was not. Because I remember vividly, we were when that episode dropped. I don't know what time it was. I was like, all right, I hit play, and I got very dewy eyed watching that one.
Yeah, yeah. That one had a lot of heart to it, especially Spock talking to Dal as he was talking to Jim, and that one was really cool. I worked on that one. That one was a special. I mean, they're all special. I worked on 8 too, the Time of Muck. I was supervisor on Time of Muck, and
that episode that just casually broke everyone's hearts, like that one. Is that the one you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really understand. I mean, not that I didn't understand, but like at the time, I didn't know. Like, it was the cool thing about working on these shows and then watching them drop, and then was seeing the fans' reaction, and hearing that they were crying or that they showed it to their kids, or like all that stuff like that. That to me is that was like the reward, was seeing how the fans reacted to it. So I'm glad if I can work on something that makes you cry, fuck yeah. If I can work on something that makes you scared, like Freddy versus Jason, everybody's pissing their pants. No.
Hey, there are scenes in that film. Yeah, there are definitely.
I want to brag. So I animated the only digital Jason shots in that movie. I did the pinball sequence where Freddy's pinball, where he was like bouncing around. So I animated that. And then there's a scene where like Jason, like the van tips over and Jason like flies out. I did that one.
That's pretty cool.
I did this guy like puking up eels, but that got cut from the movie.
Aw, that's not fair. Nothing should ever be cut ever.
Never.
Actually,
yes.
But it's one of the things you mentioned there was that this idea of people showing it to their, not Freddy v. Jason now, but some people I'm sure do show that to their kids, but showing Star Trek Prodigy to their kids and kind of sharing in that feeling, those emotions. And I think that oddly, the fact that it is child friendly sort of hurt the marketing. And that's one thing that we've discussed an awful lot over the last while is, why do we think Paramount's made the decision that it's made? Yeah. And I think that there was just this confusion as to where Prodigy was aimed or who Prodigy is aimed at. So how do you ever catch yourself in conversations over the last couple of years where someone just goes, oh yeah, the kids show. And you're like, well,
I never had. Well, I mean, I see what other people's conversations are, which is like, hey, I found it. It's not just for kids. Watch it. So that is, where I see it. Like, I've never had some friends of mine have watched it, and like a lot of people watch it, and they love it. So it's like, if you watch it, you'll love it. If you don't know where to find it, if you don't, well, now you don't know, but like, if you watch it, you love it. If you are trying to find it, or if you're like, oh, I don't know what to say, like it's not, it, there are cartoony aspects of it, but really we were like, there's no squash and stretch. There's no like big, like kind of anime kind of stuff, or like we really wanted it to make it feel like well, I guess real in a sense, like kind of more realistic movement and more realistic actions and things like that, but yeah, I do wish it was marketed more. I do think that there was like they don't know what to do with it, because there is a thing where like, because it's a kid show, you can't advertise on a primetime show. So that's why you
Mm.
didn't see advertisement. I don't know. I think that I can say this, but this is why you don't see advertisements on Picard, for Prodigy, because there's, I think it's, yeah, there's like legal standards or whatever. So that hurt us for sure, but like, if you knew it and you knew where to find it, you were in. That's what I feel bad mostly right now, is the fans, that the fans can't get it right now, unless you bought the DVD, the first 10 DVDs, but it sounds like the back 10 are going to come out, hopefully. I don't know when, but
I have, well, not news on that, but just yesterday someone shared a screen grab.
September.
They've pre-ordered. Yeah, I think it might be kind of September. So it is coming. So that's, I think, possibly since speaking to the podcast audience, I think, yes, that's now news, is that it is coming. And the response, so the negative, the sad response to Prodigy being pulled aside for a second, the positive response of the complete outpouring of support of season one. Like, I think there's a waiting list now to get copies of the first 10 online, the hard copies. I know at the moment, like as of recording of this, it's sold out of my provider. So that's, which I'm delighted about. Not that I can't get it, but I'm delighted that, yes, I'd rather it be sold out because everyone's bought it than it not be available.
Totally.
I won't say that I know in detail about how this tax thing works for streamers. I don't know details, so I'm not going to suppose. The most frustrating thing to me would be that people won't get to see either season one, and obviously a lot of people have seen season one, or season two at all. That would just be,
that would be a crime if we don't get to see season two. We're all very positive over here. We're all we all have our chins up and we think it'll find a home. I don't have anything on that right now, but I think it will get a home somewhere. Yeah, but that will be exciting to see when that drops, to see, if the fans, I'm sure they'll come back, but, to see their reaction to that, and to probably feel like, oh, we almost lost this,
Yep. It reminds me, I mean, like, if we think of one of the reasons I'm so positive about it is, one, seeing the feedback, but two, there are so many shows at the moment. Like, look at The Expanse. The Expanse was gone. It got a second bit of life. Lucifer. And most recently, I think, maybe not the weekend gone, but the previous weekend, that show Warrior Nun. Like, that was dead. And then that's been revived,
Yeah, I think it would be cool. It would be cool. I would love to do yes, I would love to keep doing seasons, but I think to do like a movie with these characters, put them in a situation, like one of the, like, where, it's them up against the, the Klingons, or it's them up against this, whatever, the Romulans or something like that, and then see how our kids deal with something like super big, like that would be really cool. But but that would be like, who knows how much time after season 2 airs, and then you got to green light it, then you got to write it, then you got to like do all that stuff. So that would be a ways out. But yeah, I was really hoping that it would keep sailing. But
I heard before. Yeah, no, you would know this far better than I would. I heard something. It could have been an arbitrary number, but let's say everything works out fine. Season 3 is greenlit today. The earliest you'd see it would be July 25. Would that be about right? Yeah.
Because you got to write it, you got to board it, you got to do the animatics, you got to record. Like that process and animation really does not move. Like the only way you could get away with it, if you're like, no new characters, no new sets, no new props. They're on the ship and they're running around the ship, like, which, having constraints like that are a good thing. I'm sure in live action, I'm sure in the, like, they're like, we can only go to these many locations and we can only go, we can go down to the planet a couple of times. We have to have some, bottle episodes where it takes place, on the ship or whatever. But yeah, that's the only way that you can speed that stuff up. But no one wants to do that.
But you're so right about it. It's so funny. Some of the best episodes of Star Trek are bottle episodes. And look at The Walking Dead season 2. They had a bottle season on that farm. So maybe it's possible. And you did say that you have built a digital Jason, so you can still insert a new character. I'm sure the rights are easy to deal with.
No. If I'm cool putting Jason walking. Jason, hologram Jason walking around the ship. He turns into a Friday the 13th episode. Done. We just need to build a swamp.
Excellent. Cool. And then, sure, no one could say, "Oh, this is only for kids." Do you remember that one episode? The one that was banned immediately. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. The one where they put Dal in a sleeping bag and banged him against a tree, and that's the scene I think about from Jason X.
It's
a hologram. He goes into a hologram.
Yeah.
And he like relives like some of his old memory, right?
That's exactly what it is. Myself and my buddy Darren. I'm
gonna go Kevin Dan. I'm gonna talk to Kevin and Dan after this.
Like, I mean, the world's our oyster, because we have a thing as well. Actually, to seriously, pick up on what you were saying there about doing a movie. Now that things like the Section 31 movie are confirmed, that's maybe not such an outlandish idea.
What's Section 31? What's that? Sorry, I don't know what that is.
So Section 31. So there is a standalone 2-hour. They're calling it a special movie event of a Section 31 story starring Michelle Yeoh. It's all confirmed.
That. Okay. Yeah.
That one. Yeah. So the idea then of doing, we've kind of affectionately started calling them long treks, just standalone 2-hour events. Now I want season 2 and season 3, don't get me wrong, but if there was something like that for Prodigy, how many series have run a series and finished things in a movie? Look at Firefly and Serenity, for example.
That would be awesome. I'd be super into that. Yeah, just to do a long, like to how, because we have to move so quickly that sometimes the fans are very forgiving over, like, sometimes I see it's just one of those artist curse where you watch your stuff and you're like, it could have been better. Like those moments, we do get to have a lot of our moments, and we do have a little bit of time built in the schedule. Like if, we want to reanimate something or we want to like plus something up, like we get to do that, but we don't get to like retake, a ton of animation to be like, what, this will be stronger, so it would be really cool to get the chance to really dig into the animation and really, make sure that like everything's connecting and things like that. That would be cool to be able to do, and to tell the story. But yeah, I don't want to see it go away. And anything could happen. It's just a weird time right now, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of merging and a lot of purging and a lot of, like, what do you do? The pie is so split of how many shows there are, where they're at. How do you get excitement from the public to be like, we're Paramount, and or like Netflix has got a good stronghold, Hulu's got a good stronghold, Disney is clearly Disney, but like, yeah, it's so hard to capture eyeballs, because I don't know how it is in Ireland, but around here it's like 80s punks. Kids are skating and they're dressing like they're in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and they're running around. They're not watching television as much, or they're watching, YouTube, or they're watching just a person in their house, and they're like, this is my entertainment. I watch these people walk around.
That is gas, actually, yeah, because it was, I'll be honest with you, it was neither today nor yesterday that I was a child, but I have 2 teenage nephews, and they do a lot of gaming, but then they do they do like, they'll watch the reaction videos or whatever, and sometimes I'll have a laugh at them being like, I haven't yet caught myself going back in my day, because that's when I know it's time to get the Zimmer frame, and it's like, right, okay, I'll switch the wine to prune juice. But
you gotta have a foot in the future and a foot in the past. That's how I think about it. It's like, that's what is hip, right? What is future and what is a little past, so you can't, and we all evolved in the way that we evolved and did our habits, and now there's this new habits being made, globally.
I think as well, I'm sure every decade has its own thing. For me, growing up in the 90s, there was, everything we watched was appointment television because it had to be. There was no such thing as streaming or catch up or anything like that. And in a way, I'd say that probably helped Star Trek particularly, because the nicest complaint that I've had about Star Trek in the last few years is the sheer amount of Star Trek that we've had to consume. And it's, believe me, it's been...
They'll have like 40, 50 episodes in a season, and you're like, whoa!
Like, it's like, I remember, I think was it last year or the year before, where there was something like 27 straight weeks of new episodes of Star Trek, and we hadn't had that since the long seasons of the earlier shows. And I remember, it was, again, a happy complaint. We used to joke about, oh, Jeannie might have to get up, because it would air 8 a.m. Thursday morning, our time, right?
Okay.
So we'd have to get up and watch it then. And all of us were smiling with this, because it was like, oh, no. Oh, darn.
What was your first entry into Star Trek?
So I go all the way back to, so my first one would have been Next Gen. So I know I was watching that on airing, but my first clear memory is I watched Emissary with my dad. And so that would have been 93. And then I remember Generations in the cinema. And that was just mind blowing.
Yeah.
I joke, I was alive for Final Frontier and Undiscovered Country, and my father wouldn't bring me. And, now I look back and I've sat in a cinema with a screaming baby as well. And okay, maybe he made the right call.
I didn't get into it until later. I did not watch, not anything against it, but when I would put it on as a kid, I would be intimidated. I didn't know what, I would see the characters and stuff like that. And, but I just didn't know what was going on. So I probably tuned out. But when I had this job in college where I would have to stay overnight sometimes. It was a park. It was like a camping park, it was like a water, like a lake camping, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes I have to work overnight. Yeah. And sometimes I have to work at 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. And I would just watch movies. So I started watching Star Trek movies. So I was 17, 18, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And so I was working my way through the Star Trek movies overnight, just putting them on and catching up. And then the next job I had was, working on Voyager. So then I would watch Voyager quite a bit. I worked on that Snow Crash episode.
Oh yeah, that's the 100th one. That's the big one.
Yeah. So I was on the Emmy award-winning team. I didn't get that's not the statue, but I was on that team, as in my tape operator capacity. But I was out and back when they were filming all the elements. They brought a bunch of powder in on a big table, and they had a big green wedge, and they were dragging that through, and they were filming at 800 frames a second to get all those smoke particles and stuff. And I saw that happen. It was really cool. And they wheeled I saw the original Enterprise model from the original series, or maybe the movie, maybe the motion picture, but it was there and it was huge. It was 4 or 5 feet long and that tall. It was whoa.
Oh, so that's all right, Jason. Just twist the knife there. Yeah, jealous.
I got another story too. I sneaked into the that was the Deep Space Nine wrap party in Hollywood, nice. And pretended to be somebody else that I was not, and got to go in. And like Michael Dorn, like put his hands on me for some reason. I turn around and it's War. I was like, like, saw Odo there, and it was cool. But yeah, sorry, off topic.
No, love that, because this is the thing as well. Like this is what I love hearing, is the personal stories. Like I am super interested to hear in everything that goes into the making of Star Trek, and like this is something that only you can bring. And then also, you snuck into the DS9 rap party by pretending to be Avery Brooks. So I think that's really incredible.
I was pretending to be the owner of the studio of Foundation Imaging. There was like there was a man. There was I was like, yeah, I'm Ron Thornton. Yes, I am Ron. They didn't check back then. I mean, this is like what, the 90s or 2000 or something like that. I can't remember. But that's why that's why I love working on Prodigy, and I love adding to Star Trek canon, and I love seeing these ships on my screen. I mean, like after we're done, I'm working on episode 12 right now of second season. Right now I'm kind of like I handle like I supervise the two animation directors, but they're so good. I don't need to hold their hand. JD and CJ are both very, very, very talented animators and artists, and they are in charge of their episodes, and they're plussing things up and redirecting stuff and reanimating stuff and refiguring out with Ben, and so it's a cool process. But then on the back end, I handle most of the retakes, and ship animation and stuff like that. We have a freelancer, shout out to Herbie Sampson, who's doing he did a lot of the the space stuff in episode 19 of first season. I did some of that, but he did a pretty big bulk of that. So it's a really small team here, but we're getting a lot done, so that or we get a lot done, mostly redirecting, mostly reanimating and stuff, just kind of like opening up shots, opening up the world a little bit more, getting more dynamic shots and stuff like that. So that's pretty much what my day-to-day is now, is animating. And sometimes I'll pull up some scenes, redirect it with camera, do some like handheld camera, or sometimes just adding stuff like that actually can plus up a sequence quite a bit just through camera.
I just want to actually pick up on particularly episode 19 there, because so that was, I mean, we were just delighted. We got Sovereign classes, we got Centaur, we got Defiant, and we loved it. Did ye know that ye were quietly confirming the fate of the Enterprise E in that
I
episode?
heard about you. Yeah, I heard about this. Yeah, I probably saw your tweets, and I was like, oh, I don't know, like, talk to Kevin and Dan. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, listen, if we just go by the recent episode of Picard, it's as open-ended as could well be that. But I thought it was actually because the attention to detail. Now, I know digital models, of course, have been built. I don't think one had been built of the Centaur. I knew there had been for Enterprise E.
That I would have to check. I don't know. Maybe some kind of ship of the week or something like that on a show. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Like, how, I suppose on the one hand, how much fun is that? But then that'll also lead into, and I'll put my own head on the block here, is like, how much do the nitpickers annoy you?
I don't get annoyed. I don't get annoyed by that. I think it's great, honestly. I think it's cool that I love that someone can look into the same thing that I've been looking at and see something completely different, or see a detail. I mean, that's the Star Trek universe. That's the world, is like, I'm looking at the uniforms. I'm looking at the badge, like between Aaron Walke and Patrick Krebs, those two guys are like, the Hawks, the Star Trek Hawks of the knowledge base that those guys have, like, bow down. Like I'm like a level 3, level 4 Trekkie, and they're like 10, 12, you know. So no, yeah, those guys really kind of drove a lot of that, and making sure that our details and the call sign numbers and making sure that all that stuff is all and badges and all that stuff is all copacetic. My thing is more like, are we conveying the emotion? Are we telling the story? Does it look cool? Is there some, anything visually wrong that people would, like that's my strength on this project is, like just, yeah, trying to hold all of the integrity of everything together, as much as possible. But yeah, I don't mind when fans are like, ooh, 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 like, great, watch it again.
That's and it's funny because literally part of the job is we do the Easter eggs and everything, we go through it, and then but half the fun as well is, you spot this, you spot that, what does that mean, how does that connect to canon, and then you later on find out like, oh, that was unintentional, but that was a happy accident. That happens a lot as well,
Yeah.
I think we had one where I can't remember. I think it was a call sign or something like that, where it's just like, oh my god, that is clearly a reference to. I remember somebody online just like, yeah, it was.
Right.
That was a long thought out decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that too, which, hey, that's fun. That's the fudge factor of it's like, I don't know what to call it. But yeah, no, that's part of the fun of it all, really. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a little bit of a ramp up for me to, to make sure that everything that we're doing felt like Star Trek, like I was saying, like even the photon, like how the photon torpedoes come out and the phasers and all that stuff. Like, we really wanted to make sure that it felt authentic, or yeah, like
now I think
as if we knew what we were doing.
as much as anyone does.
Right.
I think obviously I suppose I don't want to speak for the whole fandom. For me personally, not only like I'm a Star Trek nut job, but part of what I do every week is I look at these things and I think you bloody nailed it. When you had things like, I don't Jankum, going phasers, we've got phasers. And yes, I could say that looked like the phasers I'm used to seeing. Yes. The torpedoes as well. Star Trek has a certain look on their torpedoes. And it is, you have, the nutters like myself who are just like, that's great. You could have gone completely in your own direction, did your own thing, and you would have been totally forgiven for doing so. And yet, that's just a nice inclusion, a nice tie-in.
We would have been forgiven. Honestly, I don't know if we would have been forgiven. I mean, my worry was that, like, if we didn't give it the extra love, that somebody from on high would come down and say, "We don't think you guys know how to supervise Star Trek." That would be like that conversation never happened. Everybody at the top has been super supportive and great, but that was my, like, and Patrick's personal concern was that we were like, oh, well, it's a phaser, right? And you're like, no, it doesn't look like that. It doesn't behave like that. Or the photon torpedo. Like I literally download reference. I have a folder of reference from YouTube. It's just easy to pull stuff off of there that I go, I've gone through and been like, well, when a photon torpedo is launching, what is physically happening, and how do I get that representation on screen, and what do I need to do, how do I need to animate it, how do I need to treat it, do I make it spin, it has like these like kind of points that go in and out and stuff like that. So I really do take that stuff very seriously. And like, even the funny thing on like a lot of the spaceship shots I do, I was copying the JJ movies in terms of the feel of it and stuff. And then when we hired JD, I was like talking to him and I was like, yeah, I started doing this thing when they go to warp, it's almost like the camera is like bobbing up, and like it kind of like the camera's the thing that goes, kind of like settles. He goes, oh, I pioneered that. like we pioneered that at ILM. Like I'm talking to the guy that pioneered it, and I'm copying him, but now he's working on the show. So like that was a cool thing for me that I'm like, oh, I see what they do. Like when the Enterprise shoots off, it's almost like the camera's like a gun, and it like kind of goes off with, and it just adds this like cool little element. So I've been doing that a lot, of adding, even if the ship gets shot and the camera's like super far away, just adding a little bit of camera shake or adding a little bit of drift and stuff like that is really cool. But again, I'm trying to make it some JJ stuff.
I love it. And again, it's things like that. It's that attention to detail that I think really, like, visually, as I've already said, like it looks fantastic, but it's little things like that, because not that you couldn't do that in 2D or any kind of any other type of animation, but it really lends reality to this hyper realized version of Star Trek.
We want to make it feel like there's danger for these kids, there's danger for like the crew, and that they're, it's like when you insert yourself, it's like the Goonies, I mean, like that was like a lot of the reference feeling of like that these are the Goonies that find a ship, so really did want to make it, because it's so much more fun to watch them deal with real danger, dealing with the Borg or dealing with anybody, Romulans, anybody. You don't want it to feel like, oh, they're not, it's all going to be fine, because they're not really showing me that there's stakes, right? I think that's what Star Trek always did a good job of, is making them like everything that happens is a big deal.
Yes.
Right.
So you mentioned that after this you're going to do some work on season 2. Now, obviously we can't go into too much detail. The first thing I want to say is that it is wonderful to hear that work is still happening on season 2, because I think that was obviously the first fear, was that, oh, okay, so that's the end of Prodigy. So that's not the case.
Yeah.
Is there anything at all you can say about season 2 that won't get both of our asses thrown in Star Trek jail?
The only thing I can say is that it's gonna be bigger, more beautiful, fun, entertaining, satisfying. Great. We're all loving it so far, and we've been internally we've been doing screenings as we get them done, and every time is a slam dunk. So I'm excited. It's good. It's all great. I can't say any details, of course, but I'm really excited. I have a good feeling that it'll be seen, and the fans will come and they'll gobble it up. And, hopefully that sets a precedent to set up, what's the future of it? I don't know, but yeah, we're still working hard, and we still get our heads down, and we still want to give it all the same love that we gave first season and more. So yeah, that's all I can say. I think
that is grand. That is grand. That's it. So we obviously won't go into any details on the massive crossover that's happening with Star Trek Enterprise. No, I'm only kidding.
And Freddie and Jason,
Freddie and Jason, of course, yeah.
We don't want to talk about.
It's just time for those franchises.
New Line Cinema is lending us their characters,
and that's bloody nice of them. Do you know what I mean? Like, thanks very much, New Line. Yeah,
we're Pinhead, Hellraiser, all that.
But this is completely off topic. Is it true that at one point there was an idea that Freddy v. Jason would end with Pinhead?
Oh, I don't know. That would be cool.
Okay, maybe this is a rumor that happened somewhere along the way. And again, it was one of those things.
That is late breaking news right there. I have not heard that.
Okay, cool. Like,
but that would be cool if he was like with the box or whatever.
Oh God,
We'll
I'm a
meet
relatively
Hooks.
recent convert to Hellraiser as well, so like, oh, I want to see that film.
Yeah.
Jason, thank you so much, obviously, for your time. A couple more questions, but just want to say, like,
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you
do
so
it.
much
I'm
for your
I'm
time.
good on what time is it? Oh yeah, we're good.
Grant, yo, so I'm
I
trying
don't
to
have a
remember. I
meet.
think
I
it's
don't have
9:15 in
see
the morning for you.
My first Star Trek meeting is at 10 a.m. in
Oh,
45
amazing.
minutes.
Cool, cool, Grant.
So
Okay, so answer me this in 45 minutes or less. Answer.
don't
Um,
tempt me.
do you have? I mean, this is a fairly sweeping question, but is there like a favorite moment from, I suppose, everything so far, from picking up work on Prodigy right up until today?
A favorite moment from the show, or like a personal moment working on the show?
Personal moment, something a completely Jason Meier original.
Oh, I mean, I really love what I do, and I really love. I think the like you still get that feeling when you see the pilot done. I think it was what I would choose when we got to like screen the pilot, when we got to screen episode 1 and 2, and they're done.
Mm.
We had a gathering, like a P plus gathering in Hollywood, and we watched it, and that was so cool, to see it done after working so hard on it. But but I but I don't know. So seeing it all come together, and seeing it with sound effects, and seeing the color correction, and seeing it done, it's like it's a weird feeling when you see your work on screen. When you like, the ego, my ego still goes, I did that, I did that, I did that, I not that, not that, I did that. Like, that is still a cool feeling for me. Um, but also just like, uh in general, on the show, like, I get a lot of say, like, I get to do, I get to more or less, I get to do whatever I want to help us, to like do whatever I see in my vision of what this scene should look like. Do I use a storyboard? Sometimes, yeah, sometimes I do. But a lot of times I just sit here and imagine it. And I just go, well, what would be in the show? Or what would be in Picard? Or what would be in Discovery? Or what would be in Strange New World? Or what would be in the JJ movie? Like I kind of like use all of it, or go for a walk, or sometimes in the shot, you're like, oh, this will look cool. I'll do that, and then being able to go into the computer and do it, and then show it to Ben, Patrick, and everybody, and then, get their feedback or whatever. Or sometimes you're just like, this is great, done. And you're like, what? No, no,
It's like,
no
oh, it's
notes.
too simple. It's like, no, no,
But
no.
that's very rare. But like, I love working with, I mean, Patrick and I have been working together for a long time. We've been working together for about 15 years or so. We've worked on other shows together, and working with Ben on this show is the first time I've worked with him, and we've really, over the time, we've really gotten a good rapport. I know what he's looking for. I know, like, and so I try to hit it out of the gate, um, of doing a sequence like that crusher sequence when Dal's going through the crusher. um it it was storyboarded one way, and that was fine, and it was meant to be interpreted from the storyboard. But no knock to the overseas studio, but they took it very literally, of what's happening when, and I was like, it's just, it wasn't really coming together. So I went in and redid all those cameras and reanimated the ship and what's it doing and all that stuff, and worked closely with Ben on it. But like, and that took me a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks to do. But like, that's when I started feeling like, oh, I'm really adding to this show, I'm really kind of like pumping up my director chops because I've been a producer on things. I've been more high level on things, but this one is like you're directing and you're animating at the same time, which is cool, because sometimes you're animating, you're like, okay, I'm just animating, and then someone's going to come in here and fuck it all up and tell me to do this and that, whatever, and then you're like, okay, all right. But like this is like you are doing the thing that is going to go on screen, like that. That's cool. I mean, yeah. Is it 45 minutes? Did I have my time up?
That's all right. No, like it sounds.
Does that make sense? Does that? I don't even
know. It does because it sounds so exhilarating and it also sounds terrifying.
There is, if you're not feeling some sort of terror, you're not working in TV animation, like it's fast and you got to turn it around and but like, that's kind of the nice part about it is like, I work for a few weeks on 12 and then I'm going to be on to 13. Once I'm done with 13, I'm going to be on 14 and I'm going to go all the way through and I'm going to, like watch it, make my notes, like fix these things. And then I want to fix these things and then see how it all comes together. I mean, that's been a cool part. And also just in general, I love working on things that are innovative, like our innovation is really like kind of on this one, the look, the look of this thing is gorgeous. And so we've taken a lot of big leaps in our texturing and in our lighting and in our like effects, what we can do with effects now, like we wouldn't be able to do that stuff on any other Nickelodeon show. Over the years, you kind of do a compromised version of this and that, but like we're literally pushing it, so it's cool.
Like I love it for so many reasons, but it would be an absolute crime if for all of the success and the innovation and the sweat, blood and tears, but also the happiness and the joy that the fan base has got from this, that it doesn't find a home somewhere. Again, I'm optimistic. I think it will.
I think it will.
And if it doesn't, we'll set up our own streaming service.
I'm just gonna be. I was like, let's just like do a Twitch stream, where we just like live.
Be grand.
Just like, and we'll talk over it, and I think it will. I think it will. It's just one of those things right now, but I hope the fans keep pushing and I hope they buy up every little bit of merchandise and, just, I don't know. To me, the biggest heart pull is that people watch it with their kids and Star Trek fans watch it with their, like that's their entry point into Prodigy. We take risks, characters get hurt, they die, they change, so it's cool for kids to be able to see that stuff, so that you don't feel like you're just getting like, Paw Patrolled every day, like
sure, or like Star Trek Light, no,
that was definitely what we did not want to make Star Trek Light. I mean, there's some lighter episodes than others, or some that are more fun, like the holodeck one and stuff. But like, even then, we still wanted to like make it feel daring and make it feel, like they're in danger, real stakes.
I like it. For example, I was really impressed by, I think it's in the second last episode where Dal has just ripped limb from limb, and it's done very, very graphically. And was that season 2? Okay, that's a spoiler.
Wait, was Zero? Dal. I'm sorry. I was thinking when Zero gets screwed.
No. Yeah, yeah. Oops. I've spoiled things.
If you spoil it, that's on you.
That's on me. That's totally on me. And with the thanks to AI technology,
everybody rewind it and see where the point happened. It was him.
Grand, it's fine. No, I'm gonna, and actually, funnily enough, that brings me up to time. But there's one last question that I'm going to ask of you, and and it's something we do every week because it's fascinating to get this answer from the people who work directly with Star Trek. So, Jason Meier, what does Star Trek mean to you?
What does it mean to me? I think the best thing about Star Trek is the diversity in the characters, and that it's, you know, it's all about curiosity and all about like discovery and just the lore of it. It's different than Star Wars. It's different than anything else, you know, but that and I'm going to give you just a wide answer, you know, but and it's like so fan driven, and it, not that anything, I mean, everything is in a way, but like all through the ages, all through all of it, it's really like, it's about giving the fans what they want, I think. You know, I mean, you're telling the story and you're doing all this, you know, that's cool, but it really is about giving the fans something to hope for, something, you know, like a way to kind of like check yourself against, of like, well, would I behave like Janeway, or would I behave like Chakotay, or would I behave like Kirk? Am I more Kirk? Am I more Uhura? Am I more Worf? Am I more, you know, and seeing how all of those personalities and races, and, you know, of like of different characters getting along and piloting a ship. That's the thing that I was, you know, like kind of my joke early on was that like making the show felt like we were on the ship. And when there was a problem on the show, there's a problem on the ship, you know, or on the ship, there's a problem on the show. There's a problem on the ship, there's a problem on the show. You know what I mean? So it's like, if a hull breaches over here on the show, you got to run over and you got to fix it, and you got to, like, you know, patch it together. And then you're like, cool, now we're piloting it again. Oh, new problem, you know, this thing, you know. So like, it really kind of, it's just a big metaphor for life, and it's a big I don't know, it's just a legacy, you know, from the original series. And so I don't know, I know it's a big broad answer, but like I think the biggest thing with Star Trek to me is the fans too. You know, it's the fans. It's you dress up like these characters, you know, you identify with them, and I think it's every series, it's been that, you know, it's really been that, and I'm just thankful to be a part of it and to add to it, and to like be able to get emotions out of these characters onto the screen and into your home. That's the dream, you know, whether you're trying to make somebody laugh, or you're trying to make them feel or cry or care, that's the goal, you know. That's always the goal, is to entertain and to get the goal. But or, you know, so Star Trek is just, it's all of that. I mean, I don't know, it's not one thing. It's like it's literally like a galaxy of you know, of feelings about it, you know. But
I love it because it's huge. It's so many things. It's not one thing, which I love. So thank you for that. And just thank you for everything. Thank you for what you've done so far. Thank you for what you are. As I say, we are leaving this meeting to go and have a meeting about making more Star Trek. So, I mean, I'm not going there. I'm going to go and watch TV probably. But, you know, whereas you're making more Star Trek, so there's no break for you.
There was
But
no
no.
break. No, but we just, if to give the fans some kind of hope is that we're all still plugging. We got a little setback, but we're not stopping, and we're not we're moving forward, and we're my motto is like I said, the best revenge is living well, and the biggest revenge will be we're gonna make a beautiful show that you're gonna wish that you didn't let go.
Hmm.
Uh, but that's my personal goal. I'm sure we all share that, though. We've all talked about it, and like we're all just like, all right, we still got a job to do, and we're not letting up.
Well, I think I can probably speak for everyone on our team to say that we're rooting 110% that it's not that we see season 2, that whatever form season 3 will take, that we're rooting for that as well. Because
Yeah,
the love and the care is there, and I think it just deserves to be seen. You know, um,
agreed.
and yeah, so keep working, keep yourself locked in that cage. We'll keep the social
I
media
got I
campaigns
got my
going.
Murph. I got Murph.
Excellent. I love that Murph. I love that Murph so much.
Yeah,
It is just so
I got
cute
my
and cuddly.
Murph and my badge. That's
Yes. Oh,
and my water and my coffee.
oh. One day I know there's who does we are going to get that Protostar toy. I think
Oh,
Playmates.
I
I think
really yes.
yeah, I
Yes,
want
I
that.
want that.
Uh,
I want that. I'd be like, okay, if we get picked up, I'll get a Protostar tattoo. Okay, that's that.
okay, that's recorded now. That's
Ah,
recorded.
I
Yeah,
get to choose where it is, though.
that is.
Do it
I mean,
big. I'm gonna do
absolutely
it
fair.
right here on my forehead.
Yeah, I think so. With the nacelles on the cheeks and then the proto
Yeah,
drive right down the
yeah,
nose.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
perfect.
You
Uh,
know it.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, thank you so much for all of your support, and thank you for having me, and thank you for everything, honestly. And I'm happy to talk to you again.
Well,
When things change, or maybe post season 2 when it drops, we can kind of go back and analyze some of it. But yeah, I'm happy to anytime.
I'd say it's a pleasure and it's really appreciated. Just thank you so much. So what I'll do is I'll come up to the end now. Obviously I know what you're physically doing today is you're going into a Prodigy meeting. What is then, or what can you talk about? What's next on the slate for you?
Um, no, nothing I can talk about right now.
Yep.
But the the only thing I got right now is that I need to make Star Trek Prodigy season 2, and I'm just gonna keep plugging away at that, and making each episode sing the best song it can.
Excellent. For the people who are watching and listening along, where is best to reach out and send you all of the love and support?
Oh, Instagram. I got Instagram. I'm at that Meier boy is my handle there. Like that Meier boy. I'm on the LinkedIn. I don't say a lot on LinkedIn. Maybe I want to change my ways. I'm trying to be a little more active in the community, but I'm on there, and then I'm on Threads now. Twitter, I might leave Twitter. I wanted to do this, but I think I'm going to go over to Threads. I don't really want to support uh, Elon and his
Mm,
stupid Nazi platform, but yeah. So I'm around. I would say Instagram's probably the best, and Threads. I'll see what's going on here. I haven't posted anything yet, but I try to just keep my head down. I'm not on Facebook, so don't look at me there. But yeah, if you really need me, I'll be in my office, and I will have some kind of Star Trek character or spaceship on my screen at all times.
and
And
as it should be.
I am working on a little thank you for the fans. I'm working on a little thank you image that I'm putting together for the fans, because I was really touched by all of the support and all the outcry from the fans. So I wanted to give them a little thank you from all of us. But so I'll try to be dropping that in this week or so, and I'm sure you'll see it.
Excellent. Well,
so that's just one thing.
Thank you in advance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Folks who've been listening along, thank you so much, as always, for following. We are very, very lucky that we get to do this. And Jason said it here. Remember, if you want to see him get that tattoo, we've got to support Prodigy. Remember, hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy on whatever social media platform you're on. I know there's about 173 of them now. So whatever you're on, save Star Trek Prodigy, because if we don't get the message out there, it's not going to happen. So you want to make sure that everyone knows. So everyone, thank you so much. Jason, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Seán.
Absolute pleasure. Everyone, we will be back next week as usual with another episode of The War Room. I have been your host, Seán. You are all awesome and lovely, and we will see you soon. Live long and prosper.